here tonight for the Spa of the Soul event for the women. And what's perfect here? Shopping, wine, dinner, and a keynote speaker tonight. Dr. Joel Kahn is a holistic heart cardiologist, and he's written several books. So he's going to talk about his books and how to take better care of yourself. We're doing something a little bit different. If the ladies purchase a candle for $20, they're going to go into a drawing, and we have 7 prizes. The top one is a $200 gift card to Supernatural Spa in town.
So if you have skin, stop in. We're LeBry Pure and Natural, and we would love to have you check out what we have.
We are educating people in wellness and everything, right? Massages and awesome facials.
Yes, so we are talking about the holistic value of getting regular massages and facials and how important they are for your health.
Spa for the soul, ladies. Yes. We got jewelry, we got bread. I got my goddaughter, and one of my best friends. And the best chiropractic in Washington Township. We're having a blast.
My name is Alexandra, and this is my mom, Victoria Schreiber, and she owns Victoria's House of Sweets. And today we have some sourdough bread, which is probably the best bread that you could actually eat. It's very, very low on the glycemic index and super healthy for you. It's not going to spike your blood sugar. So we have some samples here, some jalapeno cheddar, some rosemary garlic, some cinnamon raisin regular, and her delicious homemade chocolate chip cookies.
And we're all going to come together as one, because one thing that women don't do is take care of themselves and worry about themselves. So tonight, we're going to take a little minute out of our busy week, and we're going to sit down and talk to one another and listen to some really good information about your heart health.
What women need to know is what men also need to know, is that the greatest risk to their health is heart disease. And for reasons in my 35 years of practicing that have completely baffled me and frustrated me, we've got wonderful, wonderful health messages about cancer, dementia, everybody's into GI health, gut health, and bloating, but we don't learn about heart disease. And it is the #1 killer in women for sure. Some, unfortunately, get heart disease before menopause, but from menopause on, you are at real risk. And somebody needs to teach the public, it should be the entire governmental system, that there are ways to be certain, just like a mammogram, just like a colonoscopy, whether you have risk for heart disease, whether you actually have heart disease, because it's a completely silent disease. So I'm here so that maybe one woman in the crowd will be tested, find out she has heart disease, and this may make a major impact on her life for the better, because there's so much you can do if you know you got the problem.
Bring us together tonight, Lord, and we ask your blessing on each and every person here, Lord. We are so grateful that we're able to come together and celebrate tonight, Lord, and we just thank you so much for the chamber, Lord, and all they do for our community, Father. We just ask that you bless this food to our body in your mighty name. Amen.
Welcome to Spa for the Soul, where tonight we're not only going to pamper ourselves with the wonderful things that are presented to us, but we're going to do something a little bit deeper tonight before we enjoy our keynote speaker. We're going to try to connect as women and connect with ourselves as women. The women who rarely gets asked, how are you? How's your health? How's your heart? And we all know what that's like, right? We all give to your children and your families, and very rarely do we take the time, especially out during the week, to come here and do something like this for ourselves. So tonight is about presence. It's about breath. It's about stillness and health. About the sacred art of showing up for yourself and realizing you're not alone. Take a moment and look around the room and look around the table that you're sitting at and the ladies that you see. Aren't they wonderful? These are the women, as we all grow older, that will probably be there to support you. more than anyone else. And a lot of times when women are so busy with their families and their businesses, they don't have time to talk to other women. That's why I like parks and gathering places, and places where people can sit and talk just for a little bit and realize that they're not alone. Like maybe you're having trouble with your kids. Maybe you're having trouble with your rotten husband. And you realize somebody else is going through the same exact thing, you know? But before we dive into all the beauty and health that this evening is going to afford us, I want to invite you to connect with the women at your table in a way that goes beyond the surface level. We're going to take a few minutes and we're going to table talk. And you know, the last time we did this was for Mother's Day. And it was kind of nice for everybody to get together and just talk, especially if you don't know one another. So this is called Claim Your Crown. All I want you to do is think amongst yourselves for a couple minutes and answer the one question. What's something I've done that I don't give myself enough credit for? Think about it. Think about it before you start talking. Just think about it for a little bit. It could be a challenge that you've overcome, an act of kindness that you've done for a neighbor or for somebody in your community, a dream you quietly are working towards. Take turns sharing just one thought each. It doesn't need to be deep. It could be funny. And just pause for a minute and think of that question. Think of the answer for that question. And we're going to give you a couple minutes to think about it. And then that person that we just all chose to start out is going to start the conversation. So you're next. So start off with the answer to something that you've done that you just didn't give yourself enough credit for. And tell your whole table that. And then go around to your left. Can you feel the energy in the room? Does everybody notice how the energy has changed in this room? It's a cool feeling. It's kind of hard to talk over the great energy that this has created. You see, women so often don't take time for their own stories. But tonight I want you to remember that you're just not supporting the characters and everyone in your life. You're supporting your main character, yourself. We carry so much on our shoulders, our families, our friendships, our work, and our communities. But we can't do this if our heart is running on empty. That's why tonight is also about something that often is overlooked, our physical heart health. Heart disease is the #1 killer of women and is often silent, invisible, and dangerously underestimated. That's why tonight's message is so important. And that before we get to that point, we want to honor one woman on each table. So as a group, remember their stories, remember the stories I just told you, and choose one lady to choose the centerpiece to take home. Let's give a round of applause to every woman who shared tonight, who shared their stories tonight. Dr. Joel Kahn is a world-renowned holistic cardiologist, an author, and a truth teller, and a fierce advocate of heart health. You may have seen him on national TV, heard him on major podcasts, or read one of his many best-selling books. But tonight, he's here with us because he cares deeply about you. Most women don't realize that heart disease claims more lives than cancer. And far too often it goes undetected until it's too late. Dr. Khan's mission is to wake us up and equip us, to empower us with the tools to care for this precious organ we too often ignore, our own heart. His talk tonight, Why You Must Know Your Heart Age, is a call to action, and it's also another gift for us tonight. Please welcome Dr. Joel Khan. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you very much, Ruth. Can everybody hear me okay? It's a big room. Both sides, you guys still chewing the most amazing sourdough bread. And be sure to check out all the wonderful health people that are here. We got a great person there who's an expert on genetics. Oh, and there's some really great health displays over here. So Octavia, I've got patients who are losing weight over here. So just tell you, I don't know these people, but I want to make sure that they get a little attention for coming out and try to make you beautiful inside and out. But just a word about me real quick. I grew up in local Detroit suburbs, changed directions. There's a big family furniture business, decided not to do that and got into med school a couple of years ahead of schedule up in Ann Arbor. And always knew I wanted to do one thing, which was become a heart doctor, and managed to work my way through University of Michigan, University of Texas, and some other prominent places. And in 1990, came back to Detroit, parents, in-laws, and grandparents, and said, I'm going to try and be the best heart doctor here. I was a specialist in heart attacks. You probably know what a stent is, but maybe you've heard the term angioplasty. Cardiologists don't do bypass surgery. I sent lots of people to bypass surgery to a surgeon. But over the years, I had a real keen interest in prevention. Why are all these people coming in once, men and women, with life-threatening and sometimes life-ending disease? And why are they coming back? Why is the bypass patient back here 2 years later? And why is my heart attack, dramatic, middle of the night recovery back with another blockage? So I went off on my little path after 25 years of hard working conventional cardiology. And for 10 years now, I do very different cardiology. I mean, I take time with patients. I know deep what they're eating, how they're sleeping, who their dentist is, who their doctors are, where their stresses are, how they're sleeping, how they're snoring, and on and on and on. Because every one of those things make a big difference in your overall health, your heart health, your brain health, the whole thing. And emphasize real good self-care, real good education, real good lifestyle habits. And still, people do need medication and people do need procedures, but most of it can be avoided. And I'm dealing with this terrible disease called heart disease. I mean, there's a few just funny comments out there that we don't think about, but humans are about the only species on the planet that have heart attacks. I mean, when did you read in the paper about an elephant having a heart attack? Or when did you read in the paper about your favorite dog having a heart attack? It doesn't happen, and we don't think about it, but humans, every 1.7 seconds in the world, somebody dies of heart disease. But here in the United States, it's once every 34 seconds. You'll be here a couple hours tonight. A few hundred people around the United States will have died of heart disease. Every 40 seconds, somebody has a heart attack, men and women. It happens. The numbers haven't changed that much over the years. We're better at treating heart attacks, but the numbers haven't changed. And the number that just drives me nuts, there's two more numbers that drive me nuts. One number is, I just think the statistics are so powerful, and Ruth had a chance to interview me for Mitt TV interview, and I shared these so you might see it there too. But since the beginning of this country, 1775, 650,000 soldiers have died in combat. Every war up to now, 650,000. Honor all those brave people. This year, over 900,000 people have died in the United States of heart disease, just 1 year. And you don't hear much about it. The last statistic I want to talk about is something that I do a weekly podcast. I talked about this week on my podcast called Heart.pip on iTunes, Spotify. You check it out. You can become a real heart expert in 25 minutes a week with just a quick little update I give you at that quick little, obviously free podcast. But it was that 1,000 people a day in the United States drop dead. It's called sudden cardiac death, or you know the term cardiac arrest. You know, it's very emotional and deep. I saw my in-laws, my wife's parents die of cancer over the course of years. The whole family was around. They were in hospice. Everybody got to kiss goodbye, tell stories. Very tragic. They were young, but it's very emotional. But 1,000 people a day never say goodbye. You know, you find them in the car, you find them in the gym, you find them in the bathroom, you find them at a football stadium. Maybe there's a little attempt to resuscitate him. It almost never works. It does occasionally. Of course, you try. And it's due to severe unknown heart disease. Just walking off the pickleball court, running the last 10 miles of a marathon and other places. And it affects, and that's what's so important in this group, women just as much as men. I hope you know that statistic, that at the end of our lives, just as many women will succumb to heart disease as men. It is true, most women's risk starts to escalate around menopause. There are clearly women before menopause that develop heart disease. If you throw in the cigarettes, or you unfortunately get type 1 or type 2 diabetes, there are genetic conditions. And there's also some very special conditions in women. One, if during your pregnancy you had issues with preeclampsia, pretty common. You don't think about it that 20 years later you're more at risk for heart disease, but you are. Or if you had issues of high blood pressure during your pregnancy, you know, that may be 15, 20 years ago, but you are more at risk. You just need to get checked. I'm not here to scare you, but women have, you know, have you had some stress in your life? Maybe you've heard about this thing called broken heart syndrome or stress cardiomyopathy. You get some tragic news and you feel like Sanford and Sons, the big one's coming, Elizabeth, and it feels and looks like a heart attack, but it's something really unique in women that does damage the heart, but it's a completely different pathway than we see in men. So you guys are always interesting and always perplexing, and you have your own version of heart disease. But still, the one you need to be concerned about is whether, as we title this talk, you know, you can tell if you're aging gracefully on the outside. And we got a lot of wonderful vendors that will help you deal with that. And, you know, no judgment made, nothing wrong. The oldest woman in the world, these things just come to my mind. A French woman died at age 122, about 15 years ago. Jean Clement, documented to be the oldest woman, oldest person in the world. And she was asked once, what do you think about your wrinkles? And she goes, the only wrinkle I care about is the one that I sit on, or something. She was making some, she also had a cigarette in her hand when she said that, about age 120. You know, but what we don't think about is how we're aging on the inside. Obviously, it's not so easy to tell. I share this only because many of you have male partners in life. It's a little easier with guys. I'll tell you one clue you got to take out of this room and talk to your guy about if you have a guy, which is men that are starting to develop erectile dysfunction, ED. They got the blue pill, they got the yellow pill. They're wonderful medications. They're very inexpensive, and they certainly work. But men with erectile dysfunction are much more likely to have clogged arteries. It just shows up below the belt before it shows up above the belt. A guy with erectile dysfunction should get to a doctor and get their heart checked. And I'll talk about that for a couple of minutes, how you do that. It's not so clear-cut in women. Obviously, we've known for decades, if you smoke, please quit. If you don't own a home blood pressure cuff, please buy one. Get one you put on your arm and actually use it and make sure you're okay. The worst place to check blood pressure is in the doctor's office. I mean, I literally put a cuff on every patient, and you know, they come off at 696 and it's 160 over 100, and you know, 5 minutes later it's better, but you got to own a home blood pressure cuff. You know, despite the fact that Joe Rogan is the official doctor of the United States now, and Gary Brecka, if you know what I'm talking about, and others, cholesterol does matter. You know, not every smoker gets cancer. and not everybody with a cholesterol 300 has a heart attack, but it's still, for some people, incredibly important. You got to get your labs done. I want to talk to you about one special lab to ask for. There's many you could get. Some of this is on the handout on your table. You got to work your body. I don't care if you like Pilates, yoga, bar class, running, walking, swimming. You got to spend 4, 5, 6 days a week moving your body. And if you work behind a computer, you got to do what we call exercise snacks. Get up, get up on your calves a little bit, go down and do some squats. 1 minute's better than nothing, and do that every hour and move a little. Literally park your car further away and walk. Literally take the stairs. All the things that hopefully you've heard about, but we're learning more and more of these little tiny bursts of exercise. Do some yard work, dance, everything you can do. Blood sugar, you should have some testing, make sure this explosion of our waistline has led to an explosion of a couple things, pre-diabetes, diabetes. This blood sugar stuff just coats our nerves and our brain and our arteries. We get very old inside. And the other thing that our expanded waistline has done is we're much more likely to have something called sleep apnea. We snore. Just as many women in my clinic snore as men. Just as many women who are tested at home have sleep apnea. It's a simple home test nowadays. Nobody wants to wear that gorgeous mask at night. So there are alternatives, working with a dentist. But I just want you to listen for about 5 minutes. How do you know how old you are inside? Assuming you feel good. You're out there golfing and pickleballing and dancing, and you can assume at age 20, 25, 30, you're probably okay. We have somewhere in the room in that age range. But the disease starts at that age, so you still want to pay attention. But it's a very, very odd medical system that we go to the doctor, and let's just take the female version, and around age 45, you're going to be encouraged to have your first mammogram, or maybe you're a rebel and you want a thermogram or a breast ultrasound or a breast MRI, but you're going to have testing, but you're fine. And you're going to be encouraged to have a colonoscopy, or maybe you have such a pristine history, they'll do that poop in a box test called a Cologuard. You're going to have a pap smear. You're getting screened for cancer, despite the fact you feel fine. And of course, guys get a slightly different version. There are ways now to test much more extensively for cancer using certain blood tests. I put that actually on the handout, and using MRIs, a little more expensive, a little more cutting edge, but probably a very good idea. But you walk out of the doctor's office, you're 45, you're 50. Maybe your dad had a heart attack at age 56. Maybe grandma had a stroke at age 60 that left her impaired. Maybe, I had a lady in the clinic today, had it's called a dissection of her carotid artery, something that created a stroke. You got no information about heart disease. Hopefully you had a little blood work, so you will know your blood sugar and your cholesterol. Hopefully they checked your blood pressure. But as I said, with telemedicine nowadays, which is so common, the only way to really know is to have a home blood pressure cuff. Nothing was done to check your heart. And the only conclusion that logical people like you can conclude when you think about it is either that doctor, nurse practitioner, or PA doesn't really care about heart disease, and that's not the case. Or there can't possibly be a test that's like a mammogram or a colonoscopy for the heart, because why the heck wouldn't my doctor have told me about it? And that is the sad, sad deficit I just want to leave you that message with. In 1990, some scientists, radiologists in the University of California, San Francisco, created a new version of CT scanners. Didn't exist before. Because the heart has a habit that makes it very hard for radiologists. The heart is always moving. There were brain CTs, the brain's a nice organ, it doesn't move. There were lung CTs, you stop breathing, the lungs don't move. We don't want our heart to stop for a CT scan. So they had to create a whole new breed of CT scanners. At the time they were called electron beam CT, but that's a little history. In 1995 in Flint, the first machine came to Michigan. That's 30 years ago this year. I know that because my brother, a radiologist, brought that machine. And then they proliferated all over. It was a very expensive test. 30 years later, it's still not covered by insurance. Insurance companies don't really care about you that much. But fortunately, that CT scanner is available. You name a hospital and the answer is yes. Genesis, McLaren, Ford, Corwell, I got to keep saying Corwell. I don't want to leave any out that are in the area, but they all, Lapeer, they all have it. And it's about $100. And all you do is you go to your primary care doc and you put your finger in their face and say, I want you, because you're going to have to do this. 30 years later, we've made so little progress. I want you to write me a prescription for a heart CT scan. It's actually called a heart calcium CT scan. And you're going to take that and call the hospital, and you're going to take $100 or $120 out of your dinner piggy jar and not go out to dinner that day. And you're going to lie down on a stretcher, you're going to go in a CT scanner, no needle, no IV, no iodine, no allergy. You're going to hold your breath for 5 seconds, and you're going to go home. You can wear your golf outfit, you can wear your pickleball outfit, you can wear your yoga clothes, it doesn't matter. That's called a heart calcium CT scan. In the last 30 years, there's about 10,000 research studies that in men and women, this test is like a mammogram or colonoscopy. You'll either find out you have no heart disease, which is a wonderful day, and just like a clean colonoscopy, you'll go back about 5 to 10 years later and repeat it. Definitely not every year. It's very, very low radiation, less than a mammogram. And some people are concerned about the radiation in mammogram, but most people just do it every couple of years. But so many people come back abnormal. My clinic is full of yoga ladies. I can think of all the time. Just out of curiosity, sometimes 3 or 4 of them went together and get this test. Normal, 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 and the oh my God one. And the oh my God ones come and see me, and we got to figure out why. It isn't always a junk food diet. It isn't always a smoking history. Genetics play a big factor in every disease. They also play a big factor in heart disease. And they aren't the routine tests. So when that oh my God case comes to see me, we go very deep, deep, deep in lab values, as well as, of course, asking all the questions. Some people don't go to the dentist. My God, we know that gum disease and heart disease are very tightly correlated. Go to the dentist. If you're snoring, get sleep apnea checked, and other things I mentioned. And there's a lot we can do with it. There's a lot we can do with nutrition and lifestyle and weight management and sleep management and dental management and vitamins and sometimes prescription drugs when needed. I'm not a big one to rush to prescription drugs, but for a person who has heart disease. The flip side of getting a CT scan, I don't own a CT scanner, so this is just a plea to know how old you are inside in a very accurate way. Some of you in the room right now are taking a prescription for atorvastatin Lipitor or rosuvastatin Crestor or all the other statins, which are not necessarily horrible drugs, but the science is crystal clear that if you have this scan and you come back clean, it's called a 0 score, there's no reason to take a statin. That's not me, I do believe that. That's the American Heart Association and the Canadian Heart Association. So there are people taking medication, feeling achy. These medications can raise your blood sugar. That's not a good thing. Those are probably the most common, things that people experience. And they're unnecessary. So I have the joy of stopping lots of medication too, not just starting medication. So we can do much better than we're doing, and we call that knowing your artery age, we call that knowing your heart age, and it's so simple. But for reasons that, I'm a big conspiracy theorist guy now that I think about it, but, why hasn't the insurance companies and the hospitals embraced this? I can remember 20 years ago that St. Joe's Ann Arbor would put billboards around Metro Airport, Detroit Airport, come get a CT scan for $159. You just don't see that much anymore. Nothing has changed. The science is strong, the technology is strong, the availability is strong, the price is reasonable. And the biggest roadblock is getting your primary care health provider to buy into it. They'll tell you you don't need it, but you do. I just want to talk about one blood test. How can this little yoga woman I'm thinking about, delightful lady, she happens to be a neighbor of mine, I know, show up in her yoga clothes and 106 pounds and works out every day and eats well, show up and have all kinds of heart disease because genetics matter. And I just want to tell you, you're going to be hearing a lot in the next couple of years. You heard it here first, and again, it's on that handout. There is a genetic cholesterol with a long, awkward name. Nobody in the marketing world would want to call it lipoprotein little a. But everybody makes cholesterol. You have to. Some of it's good, too much of it might not be good. But 25 of us get a gift from mom or dad or both. We kind of wish we didn't get. And our liver can make two cholesterols, the routine one and this extra genetic one. You'll never know. Your doctor's not checking for it. $25 blood test. You can order it on your own, but another one to put your finger in your doctor's face and say, and it's on the handout, so if you want to see the word, I want to get my lipoprotein little a checked, please, particularly if there's members in your family that have early heart disease, strokes, heart attacks, bypass stents. But everybody should. It is recommended that everybody should, but they say it takes 17 years in medicine to really see things become routine. I think it's more than 17 years we've known about lipoprotein little a. So I manage that in so many people around the country, actually. And it's a tricky one. The pharmaceutical industry is making new drugs. That's why you're starting to see in many, many newspapers and journals articles about this deadly cholesterol, which it can be, not in everybody, because there are going to be expensive drugs, and when there's expensive drugs, there's money to buy magazine articles and TV ads and all the rest. But that's just another plea. If you do one thing, get the CT scan. If you can remember two things, get that one extra blood test. I don't want to talk too much longer. I can talk forever. I'd love to take a few questions if Ruth says that's okay. Anything in the heart world. I probably can't give you personalized advice right now. I don't really want more patients, but I do see patients all the time. We're busy. Or if you're smart, come see me in Florida in the winter. It's a much better place to see a cardiologist. I should like it. After growing up here 65 years in this beautiful state. But any questions? Nutrition, fitness, sleep, vitamins, testing? Yes.
Hi.
And I'll repeat it.
How has COVID impacted your outlook on what you're recommending?
Okay. How did COVID impact my outlook on what I'm recommending? Well, number one, COVID shifted medicine to a telemedicine-based system, and that's not going to go away. I mean, who really heard much? There was, but who heard much? Now, psychiatrists aren't ever seeing people. You know, it's very common now. And there is definitely a detriment. I love when people are in the office. You know, you learn something, even though you're seeing them on the screen. I actually like telemedicine. I see their house in the background. Sometimes the spouse is there. The dog pops in the picture. It is interesting. Some people are obviously challenged by setting up a Zoom or a Teams call. It's interesting to see that too. So that is one. Telemedicine is here to stay. Number two, how did COVID impact what I do? For many of us, it completely destroyed our confidence in authority. That everything we heard, and take this with love or kindness or flush it, was a giant lie to maximize profits for the pharmaceutical industry and the government. It was terrible. It was terrible. Medical journals, the most respected medical journals in America, New England Journal of Medicine, Lancet, published crap data, but just to quiet the conversation about hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin. It was known it was crap data, and it's actually been redacted, but as soon as it's in headlines in every newspaper in America, there's an old Jewish statement about take a feathered pillow, cut it open, and let the feathers go, and then say, oh, I shouldn't have done that, try and get them all back. You can't. As soon as the word was out that home therapy for COVID was dangerous and horse dewormer, you know, even though ultimately there was some correction to all that, and none of it was true. It was very effective therapy. You know, so complete lack of confidence in our hospital administrators, firing nurses, firing policemen. How can you keep liquor stores open and close gyms? I mean, it was just crazy. So that is another one. Number three, we're still seeing COVID consequences. There is a lot of long COVID. There are people from the vaccine or from the disease or from both that are still having dizziness when they stand up, rapid heartbeat. A lot of women, I see a lot of 25-year-old women that got vaccinated 4 years ago, and they are not feeling good still. And it's very challenging what to do with it. There are some vitamins, there are some drugs, there's nothing perfect. sometimes just making the diagnosis gives them so much comfort because they've been told they were crazy or anxiety or this or that. So that exists. I think that's like the top ones. I mean, I'm sure I could come up with some more. Anybody else got a question? Hopefully, mitttv will go right to Governor Whitmer's office. You shut down the gyms while you were on that boat with your husband. You shut down the gyms. Yeah, rude.
You can tell we're all big fans of Rivers. Can you tell us one more time what to ask for when we go to our general deal to get the scan?
Yeah, it's actually, thank you. And I just sent this. This would be a little better if it were an email and a digital copy, because then you could just click the link, so you may have to be creative. But it's number one on the list on this resource sheet that Ruth was very kind to print up and leave on your table. Coronary artery calcium scoring. That's the $120 CT scan. You can get it done on Hall Road, you can get it done on Rosewood, you get it done all over. So number one on the list. And I think there was one more hand, and then I will, if that's fine. Thank you. You want to go? Yeah.
Do you think in the near future that they will recognize holistic medicine just like regular doctors and insurance will pay for it?
Yeah. You know, will we be recognizing holistic medicine in the future? I mean, I'm mostly optimistic about what's going on in Washington, D.C. right now in the medical world. Let's leave the rest out. Some people in the room think Bobby Kennedy Jr. is a wacko. I think he's a little wacko, but I do think he's brilliant. And if you would have asked me 3 years ago that he had a doctor named Jay Bhattacharya, and head of the NIH, and Marty McAree, and head of the FDA, and now Casey Means, and head of Surgeon General, on and on and on, I think this is the best chance ever that we're going to have real questions. What causes certain diseases? Autism is the one that everybody's talking about. And we need an answer to the question, you know, is it genetics and environment, or is it, you know, food and guys, and of course, is it jabs and the whole thing? So I think this is the best chance we're going to have to do that. But it's going to take medical school curriculum changes. Those are all pharmaceutical funded curricula. So it's going to be a long time and hard, you know, to replace. But yeah, I'm optimistic. And you know, there are holistic practitioners available. Many don't take insurance, including my office, but it's worth it. And I think there's one more. Yeah.
I actually have 2 questions.
Okay.
The first one is, what do you think the comparison is between doing like thermology and ultrasound as opposed to mammogram? And then my second one would just be like your influence on statins and that opposed to like red yeast.
Okay, so I'll do the second one first. So the question was, you have a high cholesterol, and you know you can get on the statin prescription drug, you can get on red yeast rice, but I could list 10 other things, plus change your diet, go to the gym would be number 1 on the list, and it's not a pill at all. Some people say take your pill, walk it to the gym, don't take it, take your pill, walk it back from the gym, and you'll be in the best shape. I'd still say women need to know if they have heart disease, and women that don't have heart disease should not be on statins. It's not even controversial. It's a accepted topic. It's just not taught. So if you don't need to be on statins, it's still I don't like women walking around with a cholesterol 320 or 330 or 290. So I might use red yeast rice, which is a supplement that has a lot of research, more out of China than the United States. But there's bergamot and berberine and plant sterols, and just eat more fiber. If you want to take one nutrition advice, eat more fiber. That's fruits and vegetables, beans, lentils. Eat more fiber. Oatmeal lowers cholesterol, even though Joe Rogan influencers say oatmeal is horse food. It's not horse food. It's good stuff. And your first question was thermogram versus mammogram. And I'll probably bug out just to say I'm not an expert. My wife is from a big breast cancer family. She's had them all. But ultimately, we seem to gravitate back to mammograms at the end of the day. They have become lower radiation. The new thing, though, there's something called QT ultrasound. That is the hot new thing in breast imaging. You should look it up. Somebody in Detroit's bringing it, but it's a very precise breast ultrasound that is showing very good results with zero radiation. All right, I got the QT ultrasound. And I just heard somebody tell me they're bringing it to Detroit, but I don't know for sure. I am going to say thank you. I always rather leave you hanging than speak too long. I've written 6 books. I'm working on number 7. I brought 3 of them. I'm going to let Ruth and team figure out. Maybe we'll do it by birthday or who's unvaccinated or that. We'll give the books away.
Okay, so this has gone a little backwards to how I was anticipating it, but I'll start out with what I had planned. Tonight we come together to honor the importance of women's health and well-being. This event is dedicated to empowering women to take charge of their health, embrace wellness, and support each other in their journeys towards a healthier life. How about we raise a glass? As we celebrate and learn tonight, let's be inspired by the words of Michelle Obama. We need to do a better job of putting ourselves higher on our own to-do list. So cheers to the women in this room. So as the Chamber of Commerce, we ask our members to help support these events for us. And tonight I would like to acknowledge the support that we have received for this event. People Driven Credit Union, Julia Kaiser, Spotlight sponsor. Story Point Senior Living Center, Katie Marsh, Spotlight sponsor. Guardian Angel, premier sponsor, Michelle McCullough. North End Tax and Accounting, premier sponsor, Donna All. Orchard Grove Health Campus, premier sponsor, Mary Cupola. And Metamorphosis Pilates, Alexandra, what's your last name? Shepherd, that's right, diamond sponsor. We also had a committee that worked on this event, and we started off with about 7 of us, but it dwindled down to just Mary Cupola and Ruth Heidebrecht. So thank you to the sponsors that helped us. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Stay, we have dessert. The bar is still open and shopping will resume after dessert, okay? Thank you, everybody.